my name's Michael Johnston. I think I'd call myself a strategic designer these days. I mean, my background is varied. I say it's tangentially pragmatic because the decisions I made at the time seemed right. Others might say otherwise. I started in advertising, literally in a mailroom of an ad agency when I was 17, and then kind of worked my way through media and advertising roles there, mainly strategist type jobs, doing research, constructing plans and things like that. I moved to the UK and did that for a few years. Started to kind of move into more consulting and propositions in the digital space, particularly. Got a little bit bored and really wanted to make things as opposed to kind of advertise things. So went back and did a master's at St. Martin's in innovation. Realized design's kind of good, but building businesses is better. And so as a part of my master's, I invested in a startup and kind of learnt the trade with those guys, and then spent a few years working for a physical technology studio. So we built like robots and connected spaces and things like that, which was awesome. And then kind of worked in digital agencies as they kind of transitioned from advertising into more services. And then I took a job at a design studio that just got bought by a management consultant. And so that was a very different world. But also after working in big advertising agencies, it kind of wasn't that new. So that was about developing a studio in London, building a team, business designers, service designers, product design, and doing that. And then ended up doing some work in the US as well on a big project out there. And then the last couple of years, I've just been contracting. Did a bit of work for New South Wales government last year on teenage resilience, which was interesting. And then most recently, I've worked in a neobank, HSBC UK, just before it launched, just trying to bring a bit of customer discipline to kind of product teams and things like that before they launched. I think my dad always said that your aim in life is to get to the point where you work the least and get paid the most, but I felt like that was a concept more than actual advice. I think someone said to me really early on in ad agency days of like, find someone really smart in the business and go and offer to work with them for free. And I think I did that, funnily enough, with her. And what I found was I really got into the whole you learn from other people. And sure, there's a mentor part in it, but I think just learning from other people has always been my thing. And it doesn't matter if they're younger or older, whatever, I really like that. Another one was pick the boss, not the job. So I think that was a lot of, is this person going to help you, teach you, do they just excite you, all those sorts of things. And it's been interesting as you get older and you become that person. It's like, what boss do you want to be, or what leader do you want to be within that? And I think even just transitioning of types of age groups of people that you now work with, as opposed to when I was young, it's the expectations and needs are quite different. And then I think the other one I stole was actually a bit more of a slogan of a company, but I loved it, which is, it's about the work, the work, the work. And I think for me, it's always about, what do we, especially in creative fields, what's the outcome? What's the thing they're making or doing for somebody? And you can get caught up in all sorts of stuff, but always focus on, as long as we're doing the best work, it makes you feel good. Sometimes clients might like it, sometimes they might not. Even if it's, you're working inside a business, I've got a real pride in my work. And I'm almost had a few situations where I'm like, well, I did the best work I can, even if they didn't buy it. Right? So I think that's kind of stuck with me for a while. There's an element that you think that everything in your job is about your skills or your capabilities. So you go to school and you're taught that you have to learn maths, or you have to learn science, or you have to learn design, or all that sort of stuff. And you work so hard at being the best of that. And it's important. You should be the best of that. But also I think there's an element of like you will grow as you go and you would learn and get better. I have a slight imposter syndrome because I didn't go to university as a teenager. I attempted to go part-time, but I went straight into work. So there's that element of, people go to a great school, they kind of get to a certain way. I've kind of learned on the go. And actually that's a strength, and having that growth mindset of you can, evolve and develop. So I think there's an element of that. I think the other one is it's kind of all about the people. When you kind of get through those, okay, I have those skills and I'm strong there. a lot of it comes down to how you treat people. And I won't lie, it's not my ultimate strength. I've gotten better over the years, and see more and more its power and its importance. But I think a lot of the times, you know, it's how that team works, how you work together with those individuals, and that's kind of what they remember. Not they might say your work was great, but I think it is how you make them feel within that. So I think if I would have learnt that a bit earlier on, it probably would have been quite useful. I think mistake is a good word, and I think I've had a few. I think one of the big ones was I was doing a big pitch for a dating website, and it was a website back then. It wasn't way before Tinder, and I was quite confident in my strategy, and I went in and kind of pitched it, and I didn't really read the room, and I was way off. Not only was I way off, but in essence, they'd completely and utterly shunned that strategy in the press, in the public. And so I kind of was just sitting there and just, it's probably the most caught out I've ever been, to be honest. My imposter syndrome was going through the roof. But I think what I learned from that, and to be honest, the CEO of my company was amazing and really supportive about it. But I always thought that I did my homework before events, and I really didn't do my homework on this, and I really missed such a big thing. And also, I think in the room, it was about understanding and being a bit more humble about the scenario, and probably spending a lot more time with those clients beforehand and understanding their point of view. So I think as much as it was a big failure at the time, I think it was about going what I could have done better next time. And then I think the other ones are mainly around probably things I've said inappropriately, or pushed back too hard on some people over the times, and just, I guess, understanding kind of people's way of communicating or working together. And that I think is a real skill set now, especially if you're in multiple countries, multiple teams, things like that. And I think most of my mistakes would be around thinking that everybody thinks and acts like me. A lot of luck. I have a bit of a thing that I think there's luck, but there's also, I always say to people, you can't get hit by a bus unless you step on the street. So I always think you got to be out there and doing lots of stuff, and I'm always seen to be kind of on the foot. I guess a lot of it is I kind of adapt really quickly. You can throw me into a situation and I'll be like, okay, great. And I'll pretend I know stuff, and then I'll learn very, very quickly and adapt to it. And I think even being in different cultures, I've had to learn how to adapt in things like Poland or South Africa or the States and things like this. And it's like, how do you get up to speed? So that's kind of one. I think there's an element of like imposter syndrome kind of always drives me, because I always feel I like to be in a room where I don't really know what's going on, because it pushes me, but at the same time, it makes me run really, really fast. I think over the years, you learn to manage or understand that better. So imposter syndrome is not a bad thing. It means you're kind of pushing yourself. And it also can kind of turn bad because you just want the next hit, the next push. But I think that's another one. I never give up. I'm I'm just relentless. I'll always find a way. And I'm kind of sneaky like that. I'm like, oh, if they didn't buy it like this, maybe we should do it like this. Or how do we, maybe we should develop like that. And as I said, I think the last one is more so becoming a leader now. Is I have an ability to kind of like get into what motivates people as individuals, and then like how do I elevate them in what they're interested in, and then galvanize people as a team and kind of make it a bit fun. I worked on a project once in Scotland for the water company, and no one really wanted to leave London and go to Scotland to work on it. So I started a marketing campaign where I sent out the video from Trainspotting about the worst toilet in Scotland and sent it to everybody and said, come on, we have to help Scotland and fix the worst toilet, even though it wasn't on that. But it's just kind of trying to make it a bit fun and say, and I find that people work harder and better then. It's the motivation. So I think that type of leadership, or that type of we're in it together and let's have a bit of fun, I think has kind of stood out over the last few years as well.